Today, we will be demonstrating how to carry out a drive unit service with a Digga service kit. Picking up from the operator's manual, we will be covering drive units PD25 to PD50. In moderate operating conditions, it is vital to carry out the first gear oil change within 3 months or initial 50 hours of use in, then every 500 hours or 12 months. In severe operating conditions, the first gear oil change is required after 30 hours of use and thereafter every 300 hours of use with major strip down, inspection and rebuild. Place the drive unit on a stand. Alternatively, with an auger attached, drill a hole in the soil and leave the auger in as a stand. Mark a line on the hood and gearbox aligned with the centre of the hoses. Mark the 2 bolts which fasten the hood spaces to the gear set housing, located opposite each other and between the hood bolts. Do not unbolt these until the motor and gear set are removed in step 10. Remove the hood bolts with a 13/16 socket or spanner and remove the hood. Clean the motor and gearbox thoroughly to avoid contamination. Continue the alignment mark to match the previous mark at the centre of the motor. Remove the motor bolts and motor with a 10mm socket Allen key. Due to its weight, a sling will be necessary to remove the motor. Once the motor has been removed, use an 8mm Allen key to remove the oil bung. Let the oil drain. Remove the gear set. Remove the ring gear. Use a chisel and hammer to loosen it. Unfasten the last 2 bolts from the gear set assembly housing to release the interim housing and ring gear. Using a chisel and hammer, remove the interim housing. A pry bar may be required. Remove the sun gear. Remove the gear set. Using a chisel and hammer, remove the hood ring gear. Place the housing on a flat surface with the shaft facing up. Remove the seal protector by using a 6mm Allen key socket or Allen key to remove the 8mm socket cap screws. Remove the seal protector. You may require a copper hammer to break the seal. With a screwdriver and hammer, remove the seal from inside the seal protector, ensuring you do not damage the housing. Remove all 4 O-rings on input housing, output housing, interim housing and ring gear. Clean all parts by using a scraper, a scourer or steel brush to remove sealant contaminants. Thoroughly clean down all parts. We recommend using degreaser or alcohol-based cleaner to remove old oil. Before reinstalling the seal, it is important to use an alcohol-based cleaner on the seal protector surface. Apply Loctite around the outside of the shaft seal. Position the shaft seal level with the open side facing up. Tap it in evenly using a flat metal plate and hammer. With a pin punch and hammer, gently tap the shaft seal into the seal protector, only hitting the outside wall of the shaft seal, ensuring that you do not damage it. Apply grease to the inside of the shaft seal. Apply oil-resistant sealant to the output housing surface. Apply Loctite thread locker to the seal protector bolts. Replace the shaft seal protector by fastening the 8mm socket cap screws with a 6mm Allen key socket or Allen key. Apply Loctite thread sealant to the oil bung. Replace the oil bung. Place the output housing with the shaft back on the stand. Apply a light bit of oil-resistant flange sealant into the O-ring gauge. Replace with new O-ring. Replace the gear set. Replace the ring gear. Ensure parts are aligned correctly with previously drawn alignment marks. Apply a light bead of oil-resistant sealant into the O-ring gauge of the interim housing. Replace the O-ring. Place interim housing on the ring gear. Loctite thread locker may be used on bolts which hold the hood spaces to the gear set housing. Fasten the hood spacers to the gear set housing by replacing the 2 bolts at the marking points with a socket or spanner. Torque the bolts to 147 Newton meters. Apply a light bead of oil-resistant sealant into the O-ring gauge of the interim housing. Replace the interim housing O-ring. Replace the gear set. A soft copper hammer may be used to secure gear set in place. Replace ring gear. Line up previously made marks. Tap down ring gear with copper hammer as needed. Apply a light bead of oil-resistant sealant into the O-ring gauge of the motor. Replace new O-ring. Fill to 5 mm below the top of the ring gear. Allow time for the oil to settle to the bottom. Apply a light bead of oil-resistant sealant to the drive shaft spacer and secure it in place between the motor and gear drive shaft. Replace the motor lining up previously marked alignment lines. Use Loctite thread locker on the bolts. Fasten the motor bolts and torque them to 95 Newton meters. Replace the hood. Align the previously marked line with those marked on the housing. Use Loctite thread locker on the hood bolts. Fasten the hood bolts with 13/16 socket or spanner. Torque the bolts to 147 Newton meters. If unsure about any of these steps, please always refer to the operator's manual. Should you have any questions, please contact us at 1300 2 Digga or visit our website.